Good morning, sir, and welcome to AM Prime.
Hi, good morning to you and to your many viewers.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. As I mentioned, we don't know whether or not a general election will be called. It's definitely possible, but in respect to the NTA's preparations for the next general election, whenever that may be, how far along is the NTA as a political institution, and in fact, would we see a manifesto from the NTA in respect to a general election?
Yeah, good morning again. No, you would not. I think we have seen manifestos for the last few decades by political parties, and what it is really is a Christmas wish list to tell people more water, better security, building better roads. That is all they do. Recently, we heard pre-manifesto snippets from a political party with lots of promises: no property tax, and we're going to cut this, and we're not going to do that. And you state all of the goodies, but you have not stated what it is you're going to do to be able to compensate for the loss of that revenue. So anyone can come and say, we're going to give each person $1 million, we're going to give you a free house. That is exactly what a manifesto has been by political parties, giving you all of these promises, no taxes and this and that, and we're going to reduce crime, and you're not stating exactly how you intend to do it. And if it is that you're going to diminish your income, how it is that you're going to compensate for it in finding other avenues to find funds to balance the budget. So we are not having a manifesto. What we're going to have is a transformational roadmap towards the transforming Trinidad and Tobago, showing specific policies to show that how we can balance a budget whilst making sure we can transform Trinidad and Tobago. And this is not about national security. This is about every aspect in our public service, which has seemed to be sort of virtually collapsed. It is not going to be we are going to be spending time attacking the PNM and discrediting them, and that serves no purpose. What the country wants to hear is exactly how you intend to provide that roadmap to transform Trinidad and Tobago. So it is not going to be a manifesto, we're going to no property tax, and we're going to reduce crime, and we're going to build better roads, and we're going to build better bridges and more box trains. That, I mean, the country has been there, done that. What they want to see is persons with the capability, the political will to transform Trinidad and Tobago.
When you speak about transformation, effectively, are there certain things that you're referring to, or certain policies that the party is proposing that you can share with us this morning?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a perfect example. Health. There's never been a political party or a government that has looked at the serious nature of our health system collapsing. And what you're going to hear in political parties, we're going to build hospitals, we'll build a children's hospital, we're going to better beds. That is typical. That's what is expected. How are you going to transform our health sector? Perfect example. So over 65% of the country, the mortality rate is based on just 3 specific factors: heart, diabetes, and cancer. And that 65%, because of the failure of our system, it means that many persons die because we do not have a proper system, and it is not difficult to rectify. Our mortality rate is just about 74 years per person, which is not bad. That puts us about 96 in the world out of 200 plus. But why can't we get to over 80 years as the average mortality, life expectancy, sorry. And that life expectancy can go up to 80. Most countries in Europe and Asia, they are in their 80s. We are in the mid 70s. What has caused that? That can cause it to increase, which what we intend to do is, for example, when someone, the norm in Trinidad and Tobago now is persons that have clogged arteries. You have clogged arteries, and it's a simple procedure. But if you don't have $150,000 immediately to get it rectified, you're going to be put on a waiting list. By the time several months pass to deal with those clogged arteries, which is not a difficult medical procedure, it takes so long. Your heart has now been damaged, and now your life expectancy will diminish. Same thing with cancer. Many persons, they don't have the capability or the funding to be tested, and when they are finally tested, they are put on a waiting list for chemotherapy several months. By the time they start getting the chemotherapy, the cancer would have already spread. The damage would have already been done. Same thing with diabetes. If we can put simple systems to ensure that the private sector in the health industry, they don't continue to maximize and benefit, that only the rich have the capability to have immediate situations to help them with heart, diabetes, and cancer, it can lift the life expectancy of this country. So imagine, and this is about your parents, your grandparents, even yourself, to say that if we have a country that can actually put systems that immediately, I have cancer, we can have chemotherapy for you. Immediately, I have a problem with clogged arteries, I can have it cleared. And these are not something that requires hundreds of millions of dollars, but we have not put those systems in place. Those are the things that I'm talking about, a transformational roadmap. You'll never heard a political party speak about that. We are going to do the same thing to explain how we can transform the economy, tourism, sport, which has been seen as a mediocre ministry. This is all a transformational roadmap. If I could have transformed the Trinidad and Tobago police service that was seen as the most corrupt and incompetent, with public trust and confidence being 14% and changing it to 59%, I assure you that the team that we have in NTA would transform Trinidad and Tobago in every arm of the public sector.
Speaking about that team, I know that you quite early actually announced your candidacy for the seat of St. Joseph. But when will we see more of your team and who's on this particular team, and when will we get to know more about the NTA's target for the next general election in respect to seats that it wants to challenge for?
Yeah, well, we started just a few weeks ago. We announced, I think, about six custodians, caretakers, and possible candidates. The only reason we use the word custodian, caretaker instead of candidate is because we are still waiting. The jury is still out to ascertain if there is going to be any type of a strategic alliance between ourselves and other political parties who have the same type of principles, ideologies towards good governance. If that happens, well, obviously we can't just cement persons as candidates and then pull it back. And in the next few weeks, we are going to open our San Fernando West office, and we'll be announcing 6 other candidates possibly in constituencies of San Fernando West, San Fernando East, Moruga, Sangre Grande, La Joquita, Talparo. So we are on track. We know exactly what is required. If it is that there's no alliance with other political parties, we'll be looking at possibly 41 candidates. And therein lies the problem, where there's this perception that these third parties, which is what they love to call us, we are here seen as an obstacle that can split the votes to cause the PNM to win by a greater margin, as we would have seen at what took place in 1981, 1991, and 2007. Or we are there seen as nothing more than an addition to join with the UNC to help the UNC get into government. We are not. That bridge constituency, they consist, whether they call us the knife and fork people, the middle income, those persons who are not PNM or UNC till they die, whatever it is, that group, we are not here to help the PNM or the UNC. We are here to represent that bridge constituency. And the decision we make always decides the result of the general election.
In that regard, you spoke about alliances. I know that there was sort of an agreement between the NTA, Hope, that political party, and the COP in terms of working towards the next general election. How is that relationship as we speak this morning? Has there been progress? Is it a coalition going forward, an alliance going forward?
Well, we honestly do not know if it will just be between the 3 parties, if it will be all go separately. But there is dialogue, there is communication, and that I think is critical in politics. When you have a political leader that will actually block persons on WhatsApp and not want to speak to you, not communicate with you, therein lies the problem. I'm not calling names, I don't know what. I think it is unfortunate. The good thing is that I can blow my trumpet on. I will continue to be the most accessible public servant in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. And I will continue to do so. As much as I can get criticized, I'll be commended. That is what you want. You can't play mass and free powder. You can't be, there's no such thing as being half pregnant. You can't expect to want to be in public life, but you pull yourself in your house and nobody could contact you for weeks. You block persons on WhatsApp. I will continue to make myself accessible. And if it means having dialogue with political parties who would like to converse with us, who would like to argue with us, it does not matter. Conversation, communication, dialogue is critical if it is you offer yourself to public life. And that is what I will continue to do. The NT will continue to do so. The decision made by the NT will not be Gary Griffith. I think that has been the problem. The 2 major political parties, what the leader says, everyone automatically agrees to. And that is where we have problems. Mine is one, I have always been a team player, being on the technical staff with the West Indies cricket team at the World Cup abroad, with the national football team. I've been managers of national teams, sporting teams. I've been leading soldiers in the Defense Force, Minister of National Security with 20,000 odd troops, Commissioner of Police. And you have to build a team. And that is where I think we have problems, where lack of communication has caused many political parties, prime ministers to fail. I will continue to have dialogue. We will continue to have dialogue. And if it expands to other political parties, so be it. If it is that these parties do not have the same type of ideologies and principles as the NTA, well, then we will go alone.
Okay, so you said you're not going to call any names, so let me see if I can try and get something here. You spoke about dialogue, actually, and there is ongoing dialogue with other political parties. In respect to a strategic alliance between the NTA and the UNC, what is happening there in regard to dialogue? There seems to be dialogue on platforms, but in the background, are there still conversations there? You've indicated that the NTA is always open to conversation with anyone, but the opposition here most recently labeled you as a failure. So, what is happening there in respect to the dialogue between the UNC and the NTA?
Well, I saw your fellow comrade at WESN. I mean, he was brilliant a few nights ago when he said it. But this was the same political leader that 6 or 7 months ago said I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And when you flip-flop like that, you will have the country wondering, well, where did you get this date? Isn't that how you get up on the side of the bed? You're going to make enemies and friends. I think it is unfortunate. I have the world of respect for the UNC. In fact, of the 19 present members of parliament, I have been more UNC than them. I have been in the UNC executive in 2006 when I was a rookie in politics. I defeated the slate with Bazio Pandey, Kamala Prasad, Bisesa, Wade Mark and company, Oni Sadiq Bash, Manohar and myself, the three of us alone got onto that UNC Natex on the Winston Ducran slate, so it was 12 against 3. So I am fully aware of the value and the importance of the UNC. I have the world of respect for them. I think it is indeed unfortunate that Kamala Prasad Bisesa has reached that point where she decides to operate. She reminds me so much more of Napoleon. That's the important. The good thing when it is that because of my military training, I utilize that towards politics. Napoleon was one where he thought he was so powerful, he decided to go in a place called Waterloo and say, I want to fight Prussia, I want to fight Austria, I want to fight Russia, I want to fight Great Britain. Let me fight with everyone at the same time, instead of trying to make allies, and that was his problem. If Kamala Prasad Bisesa keeps going on the road of trying to turn allies into enemies, you're going to deplete your resources, and now your guns cannot be targeted on the main political opponent that has continued to defeat you comprehensively. As much as I have all the world of respect for the UNC, they are a very powerful party, very strong, because of the system of our first past the post. Even though they may very well have more support than the PNM, they cannot. The UNC has never won any election on their own in a 3-horse race. They have never. The only time they ever won by themselves would have been in 2000 in a 2-horse race. And as soon as the third party was formed, the party known as Team Unity, they got a mere 200 odd votes into the Puna, and it became 18-18. So based on common sense, why are you trying to turn? Yet again, you are trying to become Napoleon. You want to fight a Waterloo battle. We are not here certainly to beg with any political party. But just a year ago, you were holding hands with me, stating I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And now, the comments that she made, it shows that the unfortunate situation of the UNC not having persons strategic enough to understand law enforcement. The comments she made were totally, apart from being irrelevant, there was misinformation being given to the public, because when she spoke about all the commissioners were failures, Stephen Williams was one of those 4, but she's the one who replaced Dwayne Gibbs to bring Stephen Williams. So is that she selected a failure? She's the one who also voted for Earl Christopher as Commissioner of Police. So is it that when she was leader of the opposition, so is that deemed as a failure on her part as well? And then to even bring in the fact of COVID, which was as ridiculous as you could get, because during my last year as Commissioner, from August 2020 to August 2021, there were 341 murders. It was the lowest number of violent crime in all aspects of violent crime in 17 years. She claimed it was because of COVID, but after I left in August 2021, in October, November 2021, when there was still COVID, still public health regulations, still the state of emergency, still the curfew, it was the first and third highest number of murders in our country's history. So it showed that she lied, she misinformed the country. And when you look at countries like Jamaica, Guyana, every city in the United States, crime actually went up during COVID and it went down after COVID. So she hit to try to discredit me. It is rather unfortunate. I am not here to spend time discrediting Kamala Prasad Bisesa. She has done well as a political leader. She has made mistakes. She is human. But if it is that the UNC feels that the NT is one that you're going to try to use us to try to get 21 seats and give us the seats that the PNM would always win, we are not here for that. That's what we did in the local government election to prove our worth. And it is unfortunate we have persons who call themselves political analysts and they don't do research. We went after the 31 safest PNM seats that the UNC has never won in their life. And we cut inroads of 30 to 75% in every one of those 31 seats. It showed the strength of the NTA in the PNM's safest seats. And then we utilized the NTA supporters who would have been previous COP supporters to vote for the UNC candidates in places such as San Fernando and Sangre Grande. So we have proven our worth. We are not here to plead with and beg the UNC for help. If the UNC wants to continue to go alone, they will lose alone.
That's most interesting. If the UNC, you think that currently in its state, whilst you are the political leader of one party, at one point this strategic alliance was there, and I believe it's last year for the local government elections. I can't remember exactly at the top of my head the name of the coalition itself. But in respect to that alone, do you think that this sudden change in the rhetoric of Mrs. Passar-Bissessar suggests that the relationship has broken down? Do you think her leadership style is driving away the possibility of attracting new supporters and new political parties to the table?
Well, the jury is still out. There's still a lot of time, even though it is possible that election could be December. I think it's rather curious that the government will decide to cut school by a week from the 16th of December to the 9th of December. Is it to ensure that schools will be available for polling stations on the Monday of that period for the general election? So there's still time, but I think that when it is you speak to persons in the UNC, every single person of the 300,000 would have voted for the UNC admit and know that the UNC cannot win alone. And this is, as I said, this is nothing to discredit the UNC. They may have more votes than the PNM, but it is not proportional representation. The UNC, they do not have that degree of votes, especially in the corridors, to get St. Joseph, Tunapuna, Lupino, Bonea, Darby, O'Meara, Arima, La Joquita, Talparo. Those 6 seats, you only win those seats when there's an alliance, when you have the type of parties known as the WENR, the NAR, the COP, or the NTA. So we don't have enough, we may not have enough to win an election, but that is the flip over. It happens all the time. You'd have seen it in 1986 and 2010. You go alone, those individuals, they either do not vote or they go back to the PNM. It happens all the time. So every single person in the UNC knows that. It is unfortunate that Julian John, she has been adamant that the UNC must go alone. She told me that many persons came to her, they asked her, are we willing to support? She said, no, we don't need anyone, we want to go alone. I think, but this is the importance of leadership. Leadership is one where, unfortunately, if this present Prime Minister says, I do not want Gary Griffith anymore because his popularity by the country and polls is 76% minus 40. And all the other members of parliament will call me and say, Gary, this is ridiculous. We had this lockdown. Why is he doing that? But they will not say a word because they want to keep their safe seat. The same thing happens with the UNC. The political leader will make a statement and everybody will stay shoo-shoo behind her back. Gary, we cannot win alone. We need this. But they will not have the strength to tell her because they're afraid that they will remove her from her safe seat in the next election. That has to change. You must have the strength to be able to tell the political leader, this is wrong. And that is the type of person I want. I hate yes people around me. I will debate with you. I will argue with you. But I do not want yes people. Yes people is what has failed this country because political leaders love yes people around them. So all of the people in the UNC who are complaining that Kamala Passar-Bissessar is going the wrong way, there's no need to make enemies with your allies when you can form alliances. And it is a sure win. We got 60,000 more votes than the PNM in the local government election. 190 to 130 when we combine. And the NTA didn't just get 17,000 NTA supporters. The other 110 UNC seats, NTA supporters voted for them. That's why you saw the lift. 60,000 more votes meant for every 5 votes, 3 voted for the UNC and the NTA to 2 for the PNM. That is bad licks. You took that and changed a seat, for example, in Indian Walk, where you tied because the NTA voters voted for your candidate, and then you said, let's go alone. You turned from a tie to losing by 600 votes in an area that only had 3,500 votes. That alone shows the strength of that bridge constituency. So it is hoped that those people around her will have the strength to state, I wish to advise political leader, this is the wrong way. But staying and shoo-shoo-shooing, and then she makes a comment and everybody stays quiet, you're going to have a repeat of 2015 and 2020 results.
In that regard, Mr. Griffith, one would argue that at this point, the NTA, the UNC, other political parties, they have one job, which is to challenge in the general election and form the next government in 2025 or whenever the elections are called for that fact. And at that point, that is their job, just as how the PNM's job would be to ensure that they win the next election. But if you're making the argument that alliances have beaten the PNM, and it's only alliances that have beaten the PNM, do you think that you yourself are perhaps practicing the same thing that you're preaching against, where on a political platform, the rhetoric doesn't necessarily cry one of unity. It's crying division. Do you think that your responses have been just as bad as Kamala Prasad-Visses's?
Definitely not, because and this has always been an issue with Gary Griffith. People will say something, and it is my right to defend myself. It is my right to respond. But the perception you get is, oh gosh, Gary, let it pass. Why? So someone could lie about me, discredit me, call me a failure, and if I respond to expose your lies, then the problem you equate me with the problem. No. On 3 occasions before the cock crowed, 3 times before the cock crowed, Kamala Prasad-Visses's has openly attacked us for no reason whatsoever. Nothing. I don't know what crazy juice happened. It started in March, where she just went out of her way. And who are you? What you bring to the table? How many votes you have? And it's amazing that Kamala Prasad-Visses's spoke that way, because she was in the NAR in 1991 against the UNC, and she got bad licks. I thought she got back her deposit, and then she jumped to the UNC. So people are not aware of this. Kamala Prasad-Visses's is the only one of the 19 MPs in the UNC that went up against the UNC in that general election. So things change, but she understands the value of that rich constituency. So she attacked us. Then she came the Monday before the by-election and the UNC internal election. Gary Griffith, leave Jolene John alone. I never said a word about Jolene John for several months. And then you just jump up again on Monday to start to speak about who's a failure, and then try to mislead the country, by the way, to state that I placed 4th. I got the highest number of points of everyone who applied, Kamala. I got 82%. Your handpicked police service commission then decided to say, let's bypass the points and put Gary 4th. Martin George, Commodore Anthony Franklin, and Ms. Gomes never explained to the country how could Gary Griffith get 82% by experts, defeating Erla Christopher, who placed 15th, by the way, 30% less. And you decided to just put him forward by bypassing the points. Is it because you were appointed under a UNC administration then? So the point is that she attacked me on 3 occasions, and I am obviously forced to defend myself and my good name. That doesn't mean that I am here to attack the UNC. But if it is you come into the ring and you swing at us, we are not a political party that are going to be seen as bullies. I do not believe in political domestic violence. That is what people are asking me to do. Let UNC hit us, let UNC attack us every Monday night, and we must stay silent. That can't happen. But it does not mean that I am against an alliance. But I said I do not believe in political domestic violence, where you could say everything you want about me and I come out of the house battered and bruised and say all is well.
You made the argument that the UNC needs a coalition with other parties, so essentially the UNC needs the NT. Is it that the NT needs the UNC as much as the UNC needs them?
Of course, because I am being very honest. I mean, people in the UNC hate when I state that, but the Bridge constituency, they have never won alone. Sadly, there's not that proportional representation. It started in 1981 with the ONR, 91,000 votes, sounding good. It then moved on to 1991 with Kamala Prasad-Visses's being one of the NAR candidates, getting 127,000 votes, all looking good. They then moved on to 2007 with the Congress of the People, 147,000 votes, looking good. But none of those 3 parties got a seat. But by them doing what they did, it caused the PNM to win by a wider margin. So after 1981, the ULF realized, we need you. Let's join. Bam, till the 3-3. With Winston Dukaran in 2007, 147,000 votes to UNC's 190. Kamala realized, hey, we need you. Let's join. Bam, we form the People's Partnership. So it is obvious that the parties need each other. But what has been the problem with that Bridge constituency? It has been perceived that we have been used on 2 occasions. And I have no intention to allow the Bridge constituency to be used so that the UNC could win 2 extra marginal seats to get 21 seats and then say, well, you go up for the 10 PNM hardest seats, but we want your support in the marginal seats for the UNC support, for the UNC members of parliament to win. I think my personal view is that the country does, the majority of the country wants PNM removed. But that floating group of that 100,000 bridge constituency voters, they do not want a UNC government. They want the PNM removed, but they want a coalition, majority UNC, but with representatives who could represent them to be there with members of the UNC.
Well, Mr. Griffith, finally, and this comes to the point now, I understand all that you've spoken about and the need for an alliance and, the need for that level of unity going forward in a general election if the PNM is to be defeated. But though you say you are still open to dialogue and you are still open to the idea of an alliance, in that regard, why would Gary Griffith and the NT, considering all that has already been said and all that has already been done, even you suggesting that Kamala Persad-Bissessar has surrounded herself with yes people, which even argues to her leadership capabilities and style, still, with all that has already happened and been said, why would Gary Griffith and the NT want to put themselves in that position to form any alliance with a political leader and a political party of which clearly you don't see any favor with right now?
Well, for the obvious reason, the country is suffering. The vast majority of the country, they want the PNM removed. So if it is that many persons would make the request that they want that bridge constituency back in government, similar to what they would have seen in 1986 and 2010, but they want to make sure they are properly represented. The only way that can happen is by me not being arrogant, not being obnoxious to the point to say that we do not care about you all, we would go alone. That is what happened in 2007. And this is not to attack Winston Dukarani. Basu Pandey attacked the COP with full force. And the more he attacked the COP, the more the COP built because it caused more people to turn away from the UNC at the time. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, unfortunately, is doing the same thing. In my job, as I said, whereas other political leaders try to divide and burn bridges, my intention is to build bridges. I intend to form a strategic alliance so strong, and this is not about joining to beat the PNM. When we get in government, there are persons within the PNM who are PNM supporters. I need to find the best minds available to transform Trinidad and Tobago. It can't be the party card in your back pocket. So my concept is totally different to many others. I am a team player. I build, whether it is sport, whether it is in the military, whether it is national security, whether it's the police service, motivate persons, lift morale. And by doing that, I intend to continue to keep that window open for the UNC to understand that you need us to win. We're not saying that we are going to treat you in any manner of disrespect. We obviously have to respect and understand the significance and the strength of the UNC. The UNC just needs to probably humble themselves and stop believing that we are going to be used. It is not going to happen. So it is mutual. I will continue to keep the doors open, and I give the assurance to Trinidad and Tobago, we will make this work. We intend to transform Trinidad and Tobago. The only way it could happen is if we get in government. The only way we can get in government is strategic alliances being formed.
Just to clarify very quickly, the sole end goal is removing the PNM from government.
No. We've been there, done that. And that is where what you're going to see is a roadmap towards transformation of Trinidad and Tobago. Joining up to be the PNM has never been the avenue. Because you do that and you get a repeat of 86 and 2010. Both governments got into government without having a proper roadmap. It was a manifesto or wish list. That is the difference. For us to get into government, I want to make sure that when we get into government, this is the contractual arrangement between us and the other political parties. Not you shopping wish lists telling people no property tax and more bridges and more roads. A transformational roadmap is going to be the deciding factor, the cement that is going to hold the parties together to transform Trinidad and Tobago. Us joining together to defeat the PNM, that does not work. It will be totally irrelevant, it will serve no purpose, and it would collapse. So no, it is not about joining up to beat the PNM. It is persons joining with us to have the same mindset of a strategic alliance to transform Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Griffith, thank you very much for your time this morning. We look forward to the NT's transformation plans in due course. Thank you. All the very best to you, sir.